Investors are snapping up nearly half of the available residential building lots that were cleared after the LA fires. Almost half are being purchased by investors. Let's get into it. Here we go. Just the other day, maybe it was Monday or Tuesday. Today is, would have been yesterday. Yesterday, I had the conversation. You know, when you get old, you just can't quite work out what day it might have been, what month, what week you were thinking that thought. Well, it was yesterday. We were talking about on one of the the whole LA Firegate thing, talking about homeowners that are caught up in this crazy situation where their insurance doesn't cover the cost to rebuild in California. Maybe they're underinsured to begin with. They can't wait forever to get a building permit. The story is that, and I'll show it, only 13% of the homes that burned have building permits issued 1 year after the fires, because January 7th, January 1st was that first fire, the arson fire, and then January 7th is when that fire reignited and really took LA to town, right? And the discussion is how many people are going to sell to investors? How many people are going to sell? Because they have to. They can't wait forever. They're going to have all kinds of life circumstances come up. Maybe you get a divorce. Maybe you can't find rental housing. You've got a rental house, right? You're loaded, or you're LA loaded, which means I don't even know what. You've got enough money to afford a rental house, but you're still paying on the home that got burned to the ground. You're still paying taxes, still paying a mortgage. You're paying for this other house, and you don't know how long it's going to be, depending on your situation, or when you'll get a building permit, let alone reconstructing your home. 13% have already got a permit of all the homes that burned. Only 13% after 1 year. And that's kind of in the middle of the stats, right? Some communities that have a faster permitting system are going to be a little bit further along. Others are going to even have fewer homes that have just a permit. We're just talking about permit. Like Allen Iverson in Practice. We're just talking about practice, right? We're just talking about building permit. We're not talking about building. We're not talking about building. Vacant lots for sale are piling up after the LA fires. Investors are buying 40% of those that sell. Now I can already hear you. Oh, I knew the BlackRock was going to come in and just scoop everything up. Okay. We don't know what the BlackRock is. Is BlackRock going to come in on residential building lots? They're not big on construction, right? They like to come in and buy existing things that already produce a revenue stream. Haven't you developed? Not as much. But go ahead with the theory. I know where you're going with it. Hey, we said this was going to happen. It's one of those conspiracy theories. They're going to burn it all down. They're going to allow them to build in the hills where all the combustible stuff is, and then they're going to allow them to burn it all down. There's going to be no water in the reservoirs. There's going to be no water in the fire hydrants, all that good stuff. And then investors are going to come in and scoop up. Well, I think in reality, vacant land, especially $1 million vacant parcel in Altadena, you might be talking 500-600. We'll get into those numbers. But vacant land is not a hot commodity from the standpoint of, doing a couple year hold. You got to build something on it to get your money back out. You got to do something. You got to create something. And a lot of the big institutional investors, that's not what they want to do. They want to get something that's up and running and up and ready to roll and produce an income because they got to have a return, right? So the investors that I think that are scooping up most of these lots are builders, are developers, are speculative house guys that can afford couple million bucks per lot. And then they're going to go and get a spec loan and they're going to put up a 5,000 square foot home and they're going to sell it for $8, $9, $10 million, whatever those numbers are. Let's take a look here. Real estate investors are buying 40% of the lot in 90272. Zip code, which is Pacific Palisades. Investors purchased 48 of the 119 lots, 40.3%. that sold in the third quarter. That compares with 0 lot purchases a year earlier from both investors and other buyers. Investors buy 2 in 5 lots that sell in areas hit by LA fires. So, I mean, the numbers do not surprise me. You got Malibu, smaller number of homes, smaller number of sales. But in each of these, look at the red compared to the blue. They're just a little bit less than half. And those are the lot purchases by investors. Does not surprise me at all. People don't have 10 years of their life to wait to rebuild these homes. And that's how long it's going to take. I said initially 7 to 8 years for this to have a significant build out. And I think it's 10 years total. Because think of how many homes don't have a building permit yet. And when you start to really get going on the construction, then you're going to have difficulties bringing all the supplies in, getting all the subs, getting a general contractor. Prices are going to skyrocket. I mean, it's just going to be one of those deals, right? Because you got so many homes that burn down all at once. You can only bring back so many at a given point in time. And so a lot of people are recognizing that. Maybe you're older. Maybe you got some health issues. Maybe you don't want to rebuild. Maybe you were just kind of hanging on because you love the neighborhood, couldn't really give a crap about the house, but now you find out you're underinsured and you're like, all right, somebody's offering me $600,000. That's about what when everything shakes out, that's what I would have got, building something spec. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas here. But the reality is most people aren't going to be able to wait. They're not going to be able to wait for their dream home to come back around, new construction style. Just not happening. So 2 out of 5 selling to investors doesn't surprise me at all. And the fact that there is a backlog kind of indicates, well, these things aren't selling like hotcakes. Because what are you going to do with $1 million lot? You got $1 million tied up, and you're going to be in the same damn line as everybody else who had their house burned down, getting that permit, getting that architect, getting that builder, getting those subs, getting, whatever, getting your lot scraped, all those things, getting your electrical drawings together, getting your solar, signed off on, having the energy, having the whatever, the coastal commission, all that good stuff. In Altadena, there's a real push around the idea that the community is not for sale. People who plan on staying are encouraging others not to sell because of how much it could change the neighborhood. Well, that's going to go bye-bye, especially in that neighborhood, because that's a lower income neighborhood than the Pacific Palisades or Malibu. And so that's where you've got the $500,000-$600,000 lots. Those are going to get scooped up. Those make sense. Those are easier to build spec and get your money back out. So for a lot of folks, investors, that makes total sense. Is it BlackRock? We'll have to see, right? We'll see. You'll be able to see in the tax records. Hey, who bought this? Was it all BlackRock? Well, some of that, maybe. But again, residential vacant land it's not high in the pecking order of scooping up investment property. Because what are you going to do with it? You're going to sit on it? You're going to have $1 million sitting in the bank? It's a land bank? I mean, maybe. This is prime real estate. But again, in order to get a return back out of it, you're going to have to do something with it. What are you going to do? You're going to get in line with all the other lemmings. I'd like to rebuild my home. A lot of the homes that burned down in Altadena were built in the 1940s or 50s. Many investors are making lowball offers for the lots with plans to flip the land into new homes. Some owners are rejecting these offers, but others are signing on the dotted line because they're desperate to sell, she said. A lot of the residents who plan to sell are the elderly or were underinsured when their home burned down, meaning they don't have the money to rebuild. On average, it's like 70% is kind of what I'm seeing. People are insured up to 70%. Then they got to work out, all right, that other 30, where's that come from? Retirement? All right. But with the schedule the way it is, this is going to take forever. Do people want to take the time to rebuild? And the answer is no, they don't. They can't wait that long. It's literally going to be forever. The rebuilding process has been painstaking for many residents who've been waiting nearly a year for permits alone. Again, Allen Iverson, we're talking about permits. Not talking about the game, talking about permits. Many homeowners who lost their homes are living in rentals nearby, while others have left town. Some people have bought homes. Oh, yeah, I plunked down $1.5 million for 20 minutes down the road. We're just hanging out there until we can get back to the Palisades. All right, okay. Palisades, a much more affluent neighborhood. Some people whose homes have burned down have purchased another home to live in while they decided to rebuild. One of Vold's, we got Justin Vold. He's a premier real estate agent, Redfin Premier. Had a client who bought a $3.75 million home near Santa Monica, plans to work with a renowned architect to rebuild their house that burned in the Pacific Palisades. Well, if you can afford to run out and buy, call it a $4 million home while you're planning the rebuild of your other home, you're affluent, right? You got money to burn, literally. Literally, you've got money to burn. You can make that go. Vast majority of people, they can't do that. You can't necessarily do that. Another client whose Malibu home was destroyed by the fires recently purchased a $4.68 million. See, we're going in the wrong direction here. We're going to Never Never Land. They purchased a Pacific Palisades house, which didn't burn in the fires, but faces landslide risk. They purchased that. It's not going to burn up, but it could slide down the hillside into the ocean. We'll take that. We'll take two. Average household income, Pacific Palisades, $400, more than double typical household income in Altadena. That right there tells you got money in one community, you don't necessarily have money in the other. You're going to sell. You're going to sell those lots. A lot of people whose homes burned in the Palisades purchased houses in Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, Manhattan Beach, Orange County, and San Diego. All expensive areas, right? They just are. In the spring, we saw prices in the north of Montana neighborhood of Santa Monica jump 10% in a bidding wars on $11 million homes. This is such a small market, sub-market, and it's just been leveled. It's like, all right, we're going to clear this entire neighborhood and we're going to start over. And yet the process to starting over, it's not going all that well. There's a pileup for land for sale in the areas hit by the fires because you can't really do anything with your parcel. So if you need out, if you need money, if you know you're underinsured, can't build the house that you want to, doesn't make sense to build the house that you want to, you're going to sell. There's so many lots sitting in the market, sellers are starting to cut prices to attract offers. Many of the lots that are selling in Altadena are in the 500 to 600 range. If there was still a home on them, they might sell for $1 million or more. Typical lot sold in Altadena during the 3 months ending November 30th went for $510, while the typical lot in Palisades went for $1.6. In Malibu, typical lot went for $1.3. Some properties in the area impacted by the fires have been hard to value because there's not much turnover. Surrounding infrastructure has been destroyed. You got no comps. You have no idea what these things are going to go for. Hey, let's take a stab at it and we'll put it on the market. Somewhere between 500 and 1.6. And then when it doesn't sell, bring that price on down because everything sells at some point. So check these numbers out. All right, here's Pacific Palisades. 3 months ending November 30th, 2025. That's now, right? We're at the end of December. Let's pretend it's end of November. 309 vacant lots for sale. 7 back in 2024, right before the fire. So you've got a massive inventory. Vacant lots sold, 107. Last year, you had none in quarter ending November 30th. Single-family homes for sale. Now you got a bunch, but a bunch of those are fire damaged. Single-family homes for sale. Hey, I want out. I'm done. Let me out. Single-family homes sold 3145. Because it's just so much harder to sell something. Because you've got the idea, well, it might burn down, it might not. Altadena, same thing. 225 vacant lots for sale now versus 2 a year ago, right before the fire. I mean, this is not shocking. None of this all makes absolute sense. But here's something that we expected, but didn't know what that would really look like. 1 year after the LA fires, just 13% of damaged homes have a rebuilding permit. After a slow start, permitting is starting to pick up. That's what we're being told, right? Permitting is starting to pick up. But again, we're talking about literally just the permit. Not building. Not not infrastructure, not sidewalks, not front porch, not nothing. Just, hey, you can start building. Nice job. Well done. Okay. So you've got that. And a lot of this has to do with, where you sit within the process, which means if you had a house that was, you had a permit pulled and you were going to do something and the fire came, you got a head start, right? Because you don't have to clear that lot. You're just like, hey, thank you, fire. It saved us from demolition costs. We just had to scoop out the charred remains with all of our stuff in it. Nobody wants that, right? So very few people got lucky like that. But this house was one of them. This house right here is a spec home by a developer that 2 months before the fire came along, it had been permitted for demolition. So when the fire took it down, it's like, hey, perfect. And then they already had these plans lined up for this lot. And as you can see, it's pretty rectangular. I think they paid 1.3 for this, and I don't know if it's on the market, but it's a big house. It's like 4,600 square feet, but it's super rectangular. So they built a massive box on that. This is the first home to LA issues first occupancy permit in Pacific Palisades since wildfires of a rebuild. So this one just got its permit, which means, hey, you can move into this. It's ready to go. But what they don't tell you is that this was a spec home, and this was already lined up 10 ways from Sunday to happen. This was going to happen whether the fire happened or not. Tear the old one down, rebuild this home right here. So they already had plans in. They had approvals on who knows how many different aspects of it. This was good to go. And then when the fire hit, I'm like, it sped up our timeline. Let's build it. And so they built this one, and they have this one as kind of a builder's spec home, because they're going to build this company here, TJH, I believe it is. I think they've got a contract to build like 100 homes in the area. I mean, if you're a big custom home builder, this is your retirement. Palisades Fire, that's your retirement. You're going to be going hard for years getting all these homes squared away, because there's just not enough builders. There's not enough everybody to make up the difference, because you're not supposed to have a fire come along and to take everything out. So that's what kind of happened there. But that's where the story is. Hey, first occupancy permit. Yeah, but they had a massive running head start before they dove in, and they got this done. But everybody's holding out. Hey, we already got one up and done. We can do this. It's coming right along. Yeah, but only 13% of the permits. Well, it's not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible. And I would agree. Meanwhile, we've got this nonsense happening. Rick Caruso basically saying there's a cover-up called Firegate. We've heard this before. We've looked at the articles. Let's look at it one more time, though. Here we go.
Massive cover-up. Firegate. A deliberate effort to cover up the findings in the after-action report by changing the after-action report. This was deliberately and intentionally done to shield LA Fire Department, Mayor Bass, and her administration from the failures of the fires on January 7th. The type of changes that were made include the fact that the earlier fire on January 1 reignited on January 7th, and the fire department officers were ordered off the area. They deleted all of those references from the after-action report. This is an intentional cover-up to reduce accountability, the lack of transparency. The culture of corruption in the city of Los Angeles is despicable and is out of control. Mayor Bass and her administration and the leadership of the fire department should be held accountable. And it's certainly not fair to the hard-working men and women of the LA Fire Department that serve this city so greatly every day. Read the LA Times story, Sunday paper, the front section, and today's paper in the California section about the battalion chief who was upset that the changes were made. The LA Times.
And he wouldn't sign off. He said, hey, you made significant changes to these reports. I'm not taking that liability. I'm not signing that. You guys changed this dramatically. What happened? trying to make a case for, Bass, Gavin Newsom. I mean, he's in there as well. Battalion chiefs. I think you've got liability 10 ways from Sunday. And these cities and these fire departments, they don't want to take that liability because you go to trial with one. Somebody else gets the idea. Hey, our house burned down too. And if you can prove liability, which, I mean, there are so many different angles where weren't you supposed to do this? Wasn't there supposed to be water in the reservoir, water in the fire hydrants? What did our clear out of the brush look like? And state forest land, city land, federal land. I mean, just all of that stuff hanging out there. And then you've got Karen Bass. She's not even in the country when it happens. She's off in Ghana. She's off in Africa finding her roots or whatever she was doing. Then tries to convince us that she was making phone calls on the way back. She came back as lickety-split as she could. And then pre-deployment of resources, of firefighters to these areas. Apparently, a bunch of the battalions were waiting around for orders for quite some time. Hey, looks like it's still burning. It's going pretty hard, guys. Need to get out there. And in reality, they're just grounded. You had the blind leading the blind. And some of that had to do with you had 80-mile-an-hour winds just blowing crap all over. I don't think it was avoidable, but I think a lot of the damage, I think some of what happened could have been somewhat prevented, probably not all the way. What does that look like? I have no idea. But I think there were a number of things that could have been done differently, and that's where there's some exposure for liability, and that's where the LA Times has done a great job bringing those issues up. You're like, hey, what's going on here? You guys are revising history. What's happening? So all of this is playing out in real time, like we knew it would. And you're going to have 1,000,001 lawsuits after people, get their homes rebuilt. It's just getting there from point A to point B. Massive nightmare. I couldn't imagine. I'd probably sell too, right? I don't want to deal with this for the next 5 years of my life. Maybe if I grew up there, I lived there, it was my dream location. All right, maybe if I was just loaded, dropping $10 million on something was just like, take that out of the chump change drawer. But that's not reality. It's not reality for most of us. So 40% of the lots being sold to investors, it doesn't surprise me at all. I actually thought it might be higher. I thought it might be 50, 60%. Because people need to get out, and especially when you've got this kind of stuff going on. Firegate 2025. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.